Hello and thanks for joining us on the Monday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, President Buhari meets with Lawan, Gbajabiamila over quick implementation of #ENDSARS demands as protests continue nationwide. And later on the show, Femi Falana and others warn army to stay clear of ENDSARS protests as SWAT begins training, with the IGP insisting new police outfits will operate with high professional and ethical standard. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, while Gani, Kayode, Balogun and Olabisi Deji-Folutile will join me via Skype. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. We'll start today's edition on a rather sad note. Our correspondent in Borno State, Kolade-Otitoju, died earlier today of heart attack, and Kolade was buried, I think by 4 p.m. is expected to be buried according to the Muslim Bride. Babajide, all the infos we have about Boko Haram, the background and everything in Borno State, Kolade-Otitoju used to be our strength in Borno State.
Yes, and it's a massive pain to me that I've lost not just a colleague, but a friend, a confidant in security matters, and a tremendous store of knowledge. His knowledge of that area is tremendous. And when I went to Sambisa in 2016, unaccompanied by any policeman or any soldier, when I went to Konduga, the Nigerian city or Nigerian village that is most attacked, Nigerian community that was most attacked by Boko Haram, it was Kolade-Otitoju that accompanied me. Just the two of us. We risked our lives to go there. He's a very courageous journalist, and I remember that even after the Chibok girls' abduction, Kolade was the first staff of an independent TV station to get to Chibok. In fact, his visuals were used by Aisha Sise of CNN because it had the TVC logo boldly on it. And he covered live the attack on Giwa Barracks. He saw people being killed live. That video remains priceless. It's only Kolade-Otitoju who covered the war between Boko Haram, the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian Army over Giwa Barracks in 2013 or so. So it's terrible that we have lost such a person. We won't know the extent of his value to us until after a few weeks or months. But
we pray the Almighty God grant the family of Kolade-Otitoju the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss. It's very terrible. It's very sad. And moving on now, it is the 12th day of the ENDSARS protests in Nigeria, and demonstrations are not showing any sign of slowing down. Young Nigerians have put up a united front with voices and arms raised in solidarity amidst calls for a nation that works for all. The leadership of the National Assembly met with President Muhammadu Buhari and on the ongoing protests in Abuja. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, appealed to the youth to bring the protest to an end so as to allow government address concerns. He insisted that the president had agreed to address all 5 points raised by the ENDSARS protesters. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, urged youth not to lose the plots, but to rest on gains made and allow government to act on the policy issues raised.
Since the protests have taken place and the issues have been accepted, the time has come for the protests to stop, because government needs to have sufficient time, a clement environment to implement the demands of the protesters. We also need to have our economy to continue to go on. When you try to stop everybody from engaging in their lawful businesses, closing roads to markets and other economic places, we distract the economy of the country, and that is not the best way to go.
Government, we spoke with Mr. President, he's looking at every single thing. But some of these things are policy matters that will not take, that are not going to happen overnight. You know, you're not going to ask for electricity overnight. It's going to happen tomorrow. You're not going to have free roads, and it's going to happen tomorrow. But it's a process. And the important thing is that government has heard you loud and clear. I have heard. Now, it's a continuous engagement. I'm more than happy as the Speaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to engage, and I'm sure the Senate President as well, to begin to engage our youth in matters of policy and communicate with Mr. President as well.
Well, Babajide, let me start from this note. Yes, throughout last week, it was, a protest that I really followed up from the Lekki axis down to Alausa here, and that process, those people were very resilient, consistent with their demands, and very organized set of people. But the dimension it has taken in Lagos, Nigeria, as of today, and I can also report that in Benin, Edo states, the dimension the protest has taken has gone beyond the regular protesters. Now, I've always been afraid that, look, they should not allow the other guys, the bad guys, to actually hijack this process. Yes. From my house to Berger today, from my house to Berger, it took me like 2.5, 3 hours when I was speaking with you in the morning. I had to turn back. So to go and take Okada. And from everywhere it's locked. From Berger down everywhere. The youths are everywhere, stopping any kind of vehicular movements. The Lagos-Ibadan end has been cut off. The people coming from Lagos, traveling outside Lagos, cut off. Everything is on a standstill in Lagos as of today. And I'm afraid if this continues, this might hurt the economy. And for security, I saw policemen running helter-skelter, running for their dear lives. I saw it Adekunle, we've seen visuals and everything, and we are not seeing, but no matter, Babajide.
We are not, and it's unfortunate that hoodlums have hijacked the
original
legitimate
ENDSARS
aspirations or agitations of the young people who started the ENDSARS campaign. I always feared that this will happen because, you see, until people join your protest, you will not know their intentions. There are people who join the protest in Benin with the intention of freeing their fellow criminals who are in detention.
Going to the detention to
go and free people who are being detained, in the prison there. So that can be the very organized
intention of the ENDSARS
campaigners that we have been relating with for the past 12 days or so. But that's what we've seen. It's a kind of inevitability that at some point, some people will let out their frustration by joining the protest and then taking the law into their hands. That's what we are seeing now.
Same thing in Ikorodu. Guys in
Ikorodu, they are now extorting money from people using the platform of the protest to extort money from people. It's terrible. But the point has to be made that these guys had every reason in the world to protest against police brutality. Within the police leadership, they also realized that this is a legitimate agitation. The president described it in that language, that their concerns were genuine. But how do they stop hoodlums, armed robbers, bandits from hijacking their legitimate. So there has to be a change in strategy.
Immediately.
It may not be a fundamental change, but a change in strategy that will ensure that the people who are out to free prisoners, to release prisoners, their colleagues who are prisoners from prison, and other people with bad intentions from smearing the image of the organizers of this protest. Because for me, if we can have a police that will not be taking people's lives cheaply, that's a society that I would like to live in. So I won't blame the ENDSARS campaigners for mounting a campaign against police brutality. I welcome it. I've said it from the beginning that I welcome it. But I do not welcome the resort to criminal actions that some people clearly have now turned this protest to an avenue to carry out. Look at what happened with the governor of OSUN State. And I'm happy that even the governor knows. He knows that the people who attacked him were not the original protesters.
Yes.
So that point has to be made. But it's a price that the young people, because those ones were carrying guns, it's the price that they have to pay. That when you start something, you have to be vigilant all through. Otherwise,
might be hijacked.
Your legitimate aspiration could be hijacked. And once it's hijacked, then
government will have a reason to
clamp down. But even at that, I think the government still needs to be very tactical in handling this protest going forward.
GKB, what do you make of the the situation in Lagos today? I'm sure you stay in those Abule Egba area. What can you tell us of what is happening in that area?
Till this afternoon, everything was relatively peaceful. But around an hour ago, they took over the Abule Egba bridge. Earlier, they've done that for Lakupo. And I understand they've now gone to Pensinima. So whoever is out of this area now should stay away until normalcy is restored. But having said that, I think there is a need, based on what you asked Jide, for government to really, really be careful. A lot of interests are coming to this matter that have no altruistic values at all. And I'm not even talking about the criminals. I'm talking about those who have made up their mind that they are going to make these young men and women look bad. And that, to me, is the danger that we face going forward.
Yeah.
So it's up to government now to see through that particular charade and work in such a way that does not come down with the full wrath of the law on the innocent protesters. Because, like I said 2 weeks ago, we are looking at a thing with international dimension. And if you are not careful, it's the bad part of it that those other countries will start to report. They will not report that government has been carefully restrained in the last 2 weeks. They've not gone out the normal way they normally do to quash these protests. And they've been very, very calm in ensuring that as few lives as possible are lost. So do not let them allow these miscreants to change the narrative for them. Let them continue to be calm. Let them continue to treat them like children. Let them continue to guide them. Of course, it's not an excuse for miscreants to destroy lands and property. So that they have to come down hard. But like in any other crime, when you have protests of this nature, the police and the security forces have the right to guide them in the right direction. Don't block the entire express route. Give them a lane. Give them 2 lanes. Let their protest be heard. But do not disturb the movement of other people. Because do not throw away the support that we've been enjoying for the last 2 weeks.
Olabisi, as of today, I can tell you that Lagos, these people, the protesters everywhere, they've effectively locked down Lagos, and today nothing could run. People could not go to work.
Well, actually, this should be expected. When things like this happen, you cannot rule out anarchy. And that is why you try to prevent situations from degenerating to this level. But at this stage, there is little that even the original protesters can do to curb the activities of the so-called miscreants that have infiltrated their fold, because now it's like a fight, a fight for all, and not all for all fight. And you can't really say who is who. And also, we need to also give it to these protesters that in so many places, they are still as organized as they have been in the last 12 days. We only have pockets of cases where these things are getting out of hand. But having said that, I cannot also guarantee that things are not going to get out of hand more and more than what we are actually seeing today. And I think at this point in time, government needs to be more proactive. It is one thing for you to say that the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Reps met with the President, which is a good thing on its own. But I think what these protesters are looking for are more practical things. Unfortunately, some of these practical things they are looking out for are not things that they can get immediately. But it is also bad that we got to this point as a nation. What we are seeing right now, for me, is an expression of a pent-up anger. They are only using this ENDSARS as just a way of coming out. But definitely there are so many other things in the minds of these youth that some of us may not even be able to actually pinpoint. So even they might see government setting up judicial panels here and there. They might see the federal government, the police authorities starting to train a new set of people, the SWAT people. But then they can't forget the fact that as at 9 years ago, Channels Television did a report on the bad conditions in police places and how police officers are being trained. And up to today, nothing has changed. So you really cannot say this, you can't really blame them if they say they want to continue with the agitation, because they have been used to a system where when you keep quiet, when you agitate for something, you keep quiet, everything goes back to the normal. And you don't really get to see any change. I guess that is why they have continued to be like this. But then we still need to plead with them that the protest should be as peaceful as
possible. Quickly, Jide, having listened to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, what are the fears and what will you say to the protesters? Because Gbajabiamila is trying to tell them that these are policy issues, that's not something that you can decree overnight.
All wars, all battles, even between nations, ultimately end up at a round table. Look at Colombia, so many decades of fighting between government and rebels. They still had to sit on the round table. Israel and the Arab countries, they still needed to engage. Dialogue still had to play its part. So the problem with this group, as I've said last week, their strategy is extremely similar to the strategy of the demonstrators in Hong Kong. There is no central leadership, and they have their reasons for that. They don't want it to want it to be easy for government to penetrate their ranks. So there's no central leadership. So
who do we dialogue with?
Yes, and look at in Hong Kong, they've been demonstrating, they've been protesting for 1 year, 6 months without a central leadership, and they are getting some of the things that they want. When they ask for this, you do it, they will ask for more. So it's like they want to use the instrumentality of the protest to achieve a wholesale change in their country. And only 2 persons have died in Hong Kong. After more than 100 and after more than 1 year, 6 months, only 2 persons have died. A little over 1,000 persons injured. Yes, people will be injured, but just 2 persons. You know, so is that strategy? And they are very, very organized, as you know about these guys too. So they had read about protests in the recent past and seen what makes protest effective. And that's what they have adopted. But we are saying now that given our own peculiar situations and the need for us to ensure that this does not degenerate into a bloodbath, there is a need for dialogue. There is a need to engage with the government so that with the government, you can have a timeline. They still have their structures to the point that if government does not do what they want, they can still return to this protest, you know. So I think that the mechanism of engagement has to be activated to the point that they can now talk, they can come up with representatives who can talk with government. Government wants them to trust that it is going to do those things that they ask for. The VP said so that we know that you do not trust us, but we are trying to build that trust. So government still needs to go ahead and do its best to make these people truly trust them.
All right. In spite of their campaign against police brutality, extortion, and extrajudicial killings, the protesters show that they have no hatred for the police. Just watch this.
Bring Pepsi. Please, we are here because of this. Okay, thank you very much. Please. Sir. I work for C4I. Sir. Command and control. All this one said, I know that. I'm not what they are doing. Yes. I'm telling you. No, that will change. Why would they use the money buy uniform? You must change. Yes. You must change them.
You know, this is the face of, you know, the protest that I really align with.
Yes.
The civility, the way they were talking.
They didn't
with the
attack
police.
the policemen. They didn't slap them. They gave them
We are here
drinks.
because of you.
We are here because of you. You shouldn't be
buying your own uniform
with your money. That has to stop. And of course, within the demands that they've made, they also said government must increase the wages of policemen. The welfare of policemen is part of their demands. So I can tell you that if some of these policemen have a chance, because a lot of them have sympathy for these protesters, if they have the opportunity, some of them will join this protest, because police have made efforts in the past to go on strike, if you remember, that they were stopped.
Welfare.
Yes, so the issue of welfare of the police has to be addressed. And these protesters need to see clearly that government is making moves along that line, because a police that you are not taking good care of them, that their welfare is not your concern, will still continue to kill people as long as they have firearms in their hands. So that's why the protesters are concerned about the welfare of the police.
Okay, we'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Journalist Hangout. And GKB, before we went on that break, you saw the protesters actually giving food to the snacks to the policemen. What kind of message do you make to this?
Well, the message is very clear that this fight is not for only us. Like Bob Marley said, if the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's house. A poorly equipped, a poorly renovated police is a danger not only to the people of the street, but also to the leaders themselves. And what the young people are asking for is germane in that regard. What I thought would have happened by now, instead of meeting the president today, I thought the leadership of National Assembly would have met with the president at least since last week Monday. because once the IGP dissolved the SARS and came up with the new idea for SWAT, I expected the People's Assembly to come forward with a suggestion on the way to go forward. Instead of waiting for the president to call a meeting and then telling people, there are all the failures that the young people saw that led to the continuation of the protest. Because the moment the IGP responded, positively, I might add, by dissolving SARS, I expect the People's Assembly to also call a meeting of the General House under public importance and then allow these people, whatever appears to be leadership, to come to the People's Assembly and then make a case. It's the lack of communication outlet that has failed in the negotiation. That's why the fact that they have no godhead in this particular protest. But it doesn't mean that they do not have people who are articulate enough to come into the assembly and make a case under that immunity. I think that's where the failure really started, the way our administration handled it. On the second point, it is germane too that the police, because Gide and I, you know that if you speak to ordinary policemen on the street, what they are going through is not really palatable. I know of some mobile police units that were taken away from their office 2 days before the Ondo election, and no provisions were made for them to come and to go. And it happens nothing less than up to 4 or 5 times in the last 3 years, where police officers will be uprooted from where they are stationed to help out in certain areas, and no provisions will be made for them. There is even a DPO that I know who told me that only 50 liters are given to him, basically to run the station for a month. And that after the people who form the police community relations board, or whatever they call them, have exhausted their patience, he had now to resort to extra judicial ways of getting money to run the station. That led to the raiding that they do and all that. So we need to really do a lot of work, basically. We don't only to end SARS, but to end police brutality, we have to go back and review what they're doing. The Nigerian police force is not a force structured to be a people's force. It's a force structured to be oppressive. It's a force structured to ensure that people obey laws. We have to start now using this opportunity to ensure that we recreate a truly Nigerian police. Call it any name you want. Call it regional police, call it community police, call it state police. I don't really have any issue with that. The issue I have is that they must belong to the people in such a way that they know that their welfare will be taken care of and that they'll be insured.
Okay, let me go to BC now.
Now, of their job.
Now, BC, looking at this now, the problem comes now if the federal government wants to negotiate with these people. They don't have structured leadership or they don't have leaders. It's just an organic thing and everybody's out there. They don't have representatives.
Well, that's probably why they have been succeeding this far. Because the fear is that if once they have official representatives, those ones could be easily compromised. This is Nigeria where corruption is so pervading. I guess that is why whenever they want to talk, they will tell you that they don't have leaders. I remember when even some Nigerians in Netherlands went to the ambassador, and the ambassador was asking them that someone should just talk on that. He asked, who is your leader? And all of them just chorused, we are our leaders. We are our leaders. And I think, really, if you look at protests in the past in Nigeria, you see that along the line, maybe let's talk about strikes, maybe strike over one thing or the other by one union or the other. Along the line, you just see that some people, after negotiating with government, they call up the strike, and the real people they represent don't really get anything from that action. And I guess these youths over time have studied this situation, and that is why they said, no, we are not going to have leaders. Okay. But then, be that as it may, I think there is still going to be a need for some formal representations in order for them to be able to, you know, make some advancements in the agitations. If you get to a point, like Jide said, that, you know, things will still have to end at a negotiation table. And I guess we are getting to that point slowly. And I also think that government on its own should also be more proactive. It's the responsibility of the government to also study the situation and look at some of the people that have been active, you know, in this fight, and also seek a way of just letting people know that, no, we are not here to compromise anybody. We are here to be, we are sincere. All we want is that we want a new nation, a new Nigeria. Because if anybody thinks that this protest is all about NSAS, we will be fooling ourselves.
Okay,
it's obvious that NSAS is
let me halt
just
you there. Babajide, the governor of Osun State came under attack this weekend, but it would seem that this was the work of hoodlums. How can protesters ensure that, look, this genuine intention, what we've been seeing in Lekki, what we've been seeing in Alausa, decent protests in the last 1 week, decent ones. Now the people that have taken over in Ikorodu, the people that have taken over all entrance and exits in Lagos State, extorting money from motorists and doing all sorts of things. How are these people going to ensure that it doesn't, because they were shooting in Osun State. When I saw the car, remember why he sent me the clips and everything, when I saw it, I said, the governor's convoy. This was like an attack.
Yes, it's like some political enemies of the governor just seized on the protests to attack the governor. This was an attack meant to embarrass the governor. So, and this was not the work of the protesters. It is clear as
they just have to hide under the guise of
that there are people, as GKB said, there are people bent on soiling the image of these protesters, and they are using thugs. Thugs have been used in the past, repelled by these boys, and now they've got, some people are now meshing with them, pretending to be part of them, and then using the protest to extort money from people. So I think that we are dealing with bright people. They will be able to sit down today, tomorrow, to plan how to ensure that the people that they do not want do not join them in this protest. There has to be means by which they can communicate, and they do that well through Twitter, through Instagram. So they have to find a way to communicate with the real protesters, so that those who are not real protesters can be pushed out. They've been doing that. If they can repel thugs sent to disrupt them in Lagos and in Abuja, they have the capacity to push hoodlums out of their midst.
Even some,
because
some past student leaders that attempted to take the glory for the protests and everything.
No. Once you know you are a musician, they can see that you used to play for politicians. Don't even bother to get close to the place. Once you have any form of relationship with a politician, they are not going to let you get close to them. Once you form, whether you are an activist for years and then you form the political party, if you get close to them, they will tell you, no, relate with us on Twitter. That's what they did to Showore the other day. Because they don't want to be tainted. They are desperate to keep their image. Because it is that image that is making more and more people to join them. Now, the moment people can see that they appear to tilt towards a political party or any other political tendency, it will be difficult for them to mobilize a political and unbiased people to join them. So it's unfortunate now that hoodlums are joining them. So I believe that they'll be able to come up with a strategy, to push these guys out of the way. And I also believe that part of the strategy that they can adopt is, if you are protesting, you can actually stay on like 3/4 of the road in terms of the width of the road.
Yes.
Leave a small pathway
so that
for vehicles
Yes, it's very important that the business, the livelihood of people should still be
yes, because there are people who cannot,
the economy because of this protest.
People, even in America, during the Black Lives Matter protests, the states that were worst hit, their economies took a hit. It's a normal thing. We are not even seeing crowd. You need to see the crowd in Hong Kong. When they take over roads, No, taking over roads is part of the thing. What we are saying that this is a third world country. Our people
just coming
go
down
through
from
a lot.
COVID-19.
Yes, our people are going through a lot.
A
We are
lot of
saying
people have lost their jobs.
they can leave one lane. You understand? They can leave one lane so that people can use, instead of taking over the entire road. It's just a suggestion. They can leave a pathway for people to pass. Because a lot of the people who cannot use the roads are even sympathizers to their cause.
I'm sure our
so they need to
be
be
trying to get through to ISMAIL Omekino, the
Yes.
Chief Press Secretary to the OSUN State Governor, and one of our own, ISMAIL Omekino. I'm sure the producer will be working on that. And then, GKB.
Yeah.
In Lagos, Governor Sanwo-Olu has been doing so much back and forth with these protesters, addressing them, and he has been to Lekki. I saw him earlier this morning in his Alausa office, trying to address them, and he has been to Mr. President to state the demands, and even the Lagos State government today actually inaugurated their own panel of inquiry. What do you make of the efforts that the Governor Sanwo-Olu particularly has made towards this protest?
I'm very proud of Jide Sanwo-Olu for the job he's been doing for 3 events now. The COVID-19, then this strike, and then the other problem with Okada people. He has shown true leadership. Because what he did was basically to be proactive in such a way that the problem would not balloon against his government. And that to me is the reason why we need more young people in government. Because somebody else would have taken his time, a week, 2 weeks before reacting, and then his security people will tell him, please don't go there, your life will not be safe, you are in danger. But he has built all this. He was in Lekki toll gate last week, and the general joke there, the general joke was that if not the fact that he was the governor, he would have been carrying a placard against the Lagos State governor. That's how much they love his presence in that place. And I'm sure he's doing very well. Because the only thing you need now that we are not getting at the federal level is people to be proactive. Don't wait for other people to create a narrative. You are the government of the day. Move quickly. Things you know that will happen, do something about it. Because the earlier get our young men and women off the street, the better. And what I'm asking for is not rocket science. This can be achieved by simply starting it. And that's what I think that Mr. Sanwo-Olu has done in the last week.
All right. The campaign against police brutality continues in Nigeria. Human rights activist Mr. Femi Falana has urged President Muhammadu Buhari not to invite soldiers to resolve a purely democratic issue that calls for dialogue and constructive engagement. Meanwhile, the police have commenced training for the Special Weapons and Tactical Team SWAT, with the Inspector General of Police promising that the outfit will operate with high professional and ethical standards. Indeed, within the police, the message is to show respect to the civil populace. Here, this senior police officer addresses his colleagues on the need to stop turning their guns against the people that are paid to protect.
I'm sure nobody's happy about it here. I'm sure you feel ashamed to put on your uniform and move around town. I'm sure you feel bad about it. And don't forget that these arms we are carrying around was purchased for us with the money gotten from members of the community. You know they are paying us to protect members of the public. So make we come carry that same gun, they kill members of the public. Where we're supposed to protect. They can never be happy with us. Maybe we don't forget that thing when they teach us for academy now, or when they teach us for police college. And I don't forget, then talk say it is better to allow armed robber to escape than to kill what? Thank you.
Deputy Commissioner of Police Olatunji Disu, that's the head of RRS there in Lagos. Yes. And we've seen this kind of, how will I put it, distinction between these outfits, Lagos Rapid Response Squad and the General Police. And from time to time, sometimes if I'm working late, those ones stationed at Yaya Baton in front of the deputy governor's family house, by the time I see them, the way they treat you with courtesy and everything.
Discipline.
If you have broken that vehicle and I've had
They
cause,
won't help you to push your car.
yes, I've had cause to call Mr. Olabisi this that this man, the way they behave, they don't behave like ordinary police. But today we saw reverse, these hoodlums stoning their vehicles, you know, chasing them away.
Yes, I'm sure that the RRS and Tunji Disu understands that in moments like this kind of thing happens. I sympathize with the police. It's not what we see. It's not what everyone sees. There are people who do not see any value in the police. But we are talking about there's no they do not know any distinction. So for us, the RRS has distinguished itself in Lagos, you know, and we can only commend them to continue. And the sort of leadership that Tunji has also provided,
wonderful,
you can see why an RRS operative will show discipline. You can see the way he's addressing them, telling them.
There's one station on the Third Mainland Bridge that they help people out anytime you have broken down vehicles on Third Mainland Bridge.
Yes, they help you. They help you. They help you. I've seen someone that they help to change his tire. They help him to change his tire.
Yes.
So this is what we want. This is what we want.
Police.
A police that you will be comfortable with. You know, a police that you will be happy with. A police that the Nigerian people deserve. Using the language of the VP. The police that the Nigerian people deserve, that's what we have. So it shouldn't be limited to RRS or any other group or RT. No, let
the whole police be like that.
Let the whole police be like that. Nobody will complain. That's what we want.
It used to be police is your friend. Now you can't say they are your friends. I have ISMAIL OMIPIDAN, the chief press secretary to the governor of OSUN State, one of our own. ISMAIL. Hello, ISMAIL. Hello, Ismail.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Ismail.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, what happened this weekend?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, what happened? What happened to the Mr. Governor this weekend?
Yes, thank you very much. Like the videos in the public domain indicate, Mr. Governor left the government house on Saturday afternoon to identify with the ENDSARS protesters, and to show full compliance, he was putting on a face cap, customized ENDSARS. And when we got to Alekuodo, some of the known faces of the struggle said Mr. Governor should come down from his vehicle and trek with them to Olaya, which is the venue of the protest. Here from Alekuodo is about 4 kilometers. And when Mr. Governor got there, Mr. Governor behaved a student who was willing to learn from his teachers. Because when he got there, they asked him to apologize for not coming to address them earlier than Saturday. He did apologize. They said they should do it 10 times. He was saying it. They say ENDSARS, you know, he was saying it with them. So they listed their demands. After listening, after they listed their demands, Mr. Governor was responding to them one after the other, and suddenly we just saw stones, pebbles from everywhere, and thing to do was to evacuate Mr. Governor to safety, which we done successfully, and myself and few others who were on the entourage also scampered for safety. For example, I took refuge at the state DSS headquarters before we were escorted back to the government house.
Thank you, Mr. Omikpidan. We are just running out of time, and that's at least people will get what actually happened to the governor. I'm expecting my producer to show us the clip of how the protests went around Lagos, Abuja. Now, Abuja, they told me in Abuja that yesterday they had the road to the airport blocked, that people were not able to connect to their flights.
Yeah, our appeal to them is to not totally block the roads. At least you can leave one lane for people. You will still make your point. You will still be able to make your point, you know, but I don't think it's right to totally block the roads. Let our people be able to use one lane at least. Let there be a slight change in strategy. It will not stop you from achieving your aim. That is my appeal.
And people must not use the opportunity to
yes, let them identify those extortionists and chase them away. I'm sure they are capable of identifying them. The good thing, as BC said earlier, it's not in all of Nigeria that this is happening. It's just in a few places. I saw the protest in Plateau State. Very good one. There was also protest in Kaduna. You know,
the ones in Edo State have gotten
out of hand.
Going to the prison to go and release prisoner is not part of the aim and
then look at
this.
There was also protest at Transvaga Square.
Yes.
The candlelight. It was very successful. You know.
Okay, let me allow you to look at this the southern side of the protesters last week. The protest took another turn in Egypt. You are not allowed to come out in Egypt to protest. So some Nigerians actually went out without police permits to protest, and they are under arrest. So they're now even appealing to Honorable Aribike to help them beg the federal government to set free the protesters. We saw the one of London, the United Nations, we saw the United Kingdom, we saw the one of Canada. Quite, encouraging.
Everywhere you have a good number of Nigerians, they want to identify with people at home. They want to show their anger as well, because, look, if everything was fine at home, they would have no reason to go. Yes, to go to Canada. There's no place like home.
Honestly.
And Nigeria is a beautiful place to live in.
Anywhere I go.
That's why wherever we go, we feel that extraordinary pull to come back home.
Honestly.
Yes. I don't know about other people, but I have no plan to leave my country. During our time, by God's grace, our country will get better. You know?
And as a matter of fact, I think the protest is even going beyond ENDSARS now. People are asking for
good governance,
reduction in fuel prices,
good governance,
electricity tariff.
Are you going to tell me that good governance is such a bad thing to aspire to? Of course it's not. Good governance is not a bad thing to aspire to, and we want to see good governance in our country. You see, the fear that these young people have is that the ruling class has destroyed our country, and that they want to hand over to them a thoroughly destroyed country. So they don't want that to happen. They still think that there's an opportunity to rescue our country. That is what they are trying to do now, to get the leadership to sit up. We've said in the past that we don't challenge our leaders.
Yes,
so this time around, the lazy youths,
the lazy youths are the ones
standing
up for their rights.
The lazy youths now are showing tenacity. They are showing hunger. They are showing inventiveness. They are showing a never die spirit.
Yes.
That you identify with an animal called honey badger. Honey badger is a small animal, but it is rated as the most courageous animal in the world. So that's what we are saying now. The honey badger does not fear even the lion.
Yes.
It's ready to confront the lion.
Yes. Look at the youths telling the governor, Sorosoke Wiri.
They shouldn't have added that because that person
he has shown enough humility.
Yes.
He has shown enough identify with you.
But of course, where you have the multitude, a mob.
Yes, anybody can.
Somebody will suffer a rush in the head, and then he will just talk to somebody old enough to be his father.
Honestly, we must commend Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for his patience and everything. And that's our offering today. I want to say thank you so much to GKB Osiare. Onokakafor of Yoruba Land, Gani Kayode Balogun, thank you for being part of today's edition. And Olabisi Deji-Folutile, Thank you, Osiare. Thank you, BC. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platform showing on the screen. Well, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.